What up, team? Here live with Big Boys Boxing once again, and I'm your host, Jono. So first things first, we get a few things sorted here, get some sounds on. And now we can get into it. So, we had some good news today. We had this here. This news. Right here. Parker versus Chisora. Close to done. For October, says Higgins. Now this fight had been talked about for a long time. Parker and his team wanted it for April, but there was some issues with negotiations. Those issues in my eyes is David Haye, but we'll get to that. So we'll get into some quotes here from David Higgins, the former promoter of Joseph Parker and the current co-manager of Joseph Parker, being Joseph's now with Matchroom. He's now promoted by Eddie Hearn, so it is what it is. But a couple of quotes here from David Higgins. We haven't been told if we are... Oh, sorry, that's not the start. There was an earlier quote than that. Where is it? No, that's it. We haven't been told if we are the main event or not. Only that Parker is the B-side. That's interesting in itself. Only that Parker is the B-side, despite being part of one of the biggest pay-per-views in UK history, and then having another huge fight against Dillian Whyte, Higgins said. So, yeah, I'm not sure what this B-side stuff is about, but, you know, it's a home fight for Dereck Chisora, for sure. But does that make him the A-side? I don't think so. I mean, Derek's got a name. He's well established in the heavyweight division as a gatekeeper, particularly these days. But anyway, a bit more from David Higgins about how negotiations have gone. It has been hard to get a deal done. Chisora's manager, David Haye, and Hearn talked a good game, but they've just left us. They've simply left us waiting. We wanted the fight in April, but we ran out of time. Joe wouldn't have been able to have a proper training camp. We knew that story pretty much already, like I explained. But I don't like Haye and Hearn. Sorry, that can't be right. I do like Haye and Hearn, but they are very wealthy British toffs. Communication has been very poor on their part. For the AJ Parker fight, Hearn was returning my calls straight away. But for this, I've been ignored for the most part. So, you know, the comparisons there. It was also the case with the fight against Dillian Whyte. Negotiations were easy. Everything was easy when it was just Hearn and Higgins. But now that David Haye is in the equation, it's become extremely difficult. So, from what I understand, David Higgins and Team Parker got sent an offer which they are going to accept. Everything's in the 2 articles that I've attached in the description. You can go and read them and come to your own conclusions as usual. Right, so the snake is in the way as far as I can tell. David Haye, the snake. But it looks like we're finally going to get the fight, and it looks like it's going to be on the date that was previously spoken about, being the 26th of October. So that all done and said, it's looking good for the fight to actually happen, and there is a slim possibility, depending how much damage is taken by the winner of the fight, that the winner could still get on the Anthony Joshua card on the 7th of December, but we'll have to wait and see. So we got Adam Fahey in the chat. How are you, brother? Scott70. Hope you boys are doing well. Mala2243 also in the chat. You boys, I'm going to drop a link in the chat, a hangout link. If anybody wants to join, they're quite welcome to do so. Don't hesitate to hit that link. All you need is a verified Google account and you're in. So just give me a sec here and I will get this link dropped in the chat for y'all, and I'll also send a link out to some regulars and see how we get on. But the point of today's show is having it at a more convenient time for Kiwis. So there is the hangout link there for anybody who might like to join. You lads in the chat, can you let me know? I've got a few different settings today. Is the music too loud? Is it okay how it is? And yeah, we'll see who joins from there. But I'd appreciate somebody letting me know if the music is too loud or not. There was some talk of this fight possibly ending up on the Joshua Ruiz rematch card. Personally, I would have thought the exposure on that card would have been a hell of a lot better, but the money might not have been as good, possibly. But if it's they're running their own event, I think it'll be as the main event. It should be a good money maker, and if it's going to be pay-per-view in the UK, then it should be all good. We've got someone in the hangout, but I can't see who it is. Are you there? It's Adam Fahey. How are you, brother? Good as. Is there any possibility you could turn your volume up a bit? I can't quite hear you very well. I might just ditch the music, that might help it. There we go. You still sound like you're miles away, mate. Okay. Rightio. Have you got a set of headphones on with a mic in them? Okay, that's what it is. Rightio. No, we can still hear. So how are you feeling about this news? Are you happy, or are you a little bit annoyed that it's not on the Joshua card? What do you reckon, mate? Yep, you're still in the UK at the moment and will be for the fight, by the sounds of it. Shit hot. Well, that really does suit you down to the ground then, doesn't it? Shit hot, mate. Shit hot. Alright, let's get the hangout up on screen. And do you think it is just the David Haye that's the issue that was causing a lot of problems with negotiations, considering Everything else with her and with the Dillian White fight and the AJ fight for Parker was smooth sailing. Yep. Parker, you mean? Yeah. Yeah. Oh, okay. I didn't know that one, so that's interesting indeed. Um, I wonder who he's going to have in for sparring to prepare him for Joe. Who's out there that would have similar sort of speed and skills, do you think? Yep. There's a lot of people saying in the chat they can't hear you. If you do have a set of headphones with a mic on it, it might help. Or see if you can try and up your volume in your settings in Hangouts if you could. But if not, we'll deal with it. I yeah, I can't access your settings unfortunately. But yeah, I think it's pretty good news. I'm happy with it, and like I was saying, I think it leaves a slight possibility for whoever wins the fight to possibly get onto the AJ card with a quick turnaround, depending on how much damage is taken. But it would be pushing it pretty close. It sounds like it's going to be on that October 26th date that they had talked about before. And just from what I get in the articles, it sounds like they've got about 9 weeks, which makes it to about October 26th. So, yeah, end of the week last week. So, ooh, good shout. Yeah. Yeah, well, I guess there's other opportunities down the road. Matchroom has a pretty big stable of heavyweights at the moment, and a lot of them are going to be fighting at some stage, so there will be other opportunities. Um, yeah, that's another good fight too. There's a few decent heavyweight dust-ups brewing up as well. I see Philip Hergovic after his win on the weekend. It looks like he's going to be on the Anthony Joshua card, and I imagine they're going to put him in there with someone decent. I was actually having a chat to Raphael Dawkins Combat Radio this morning, and I mentioned I'd like to see Hergovic versus Price. I think that's a a decent matchup. I mean, it creates a big opportunity for David Price, but at the same time, if he loses to a 9-0 prospect, um, maybe he would think about hanging him up after that. I'm not sure, but I think it's a good matchup considering Pricey had a very good performance last time out. So, what do you reckon of that? Are you kidding? Far out. What has Tyrone Spong done to get that ranking? What body did you say that was with? The WBO? Yep. Yep. Kaunaki's 5, Junior Fast 6, Ortiz 7, Dubois 8, Cavill 9, so and so on and so forth. But wow, Tyrone Spong. I have to look him up on BoxRec to see who he fought. It's been that long since he's actually had a fight, and he's never had a meaningful fight. So, is he holding? Okay, just looking him up. Tyrone Spong, BoxRec. He is unbeaten. That's a big attraction these days. Um, that's a good point. Yeah, he's got a TBA fight on the 31st. Oh, it's this weekend. Okay, it's still TBA, so it's not going to be meaningful. Um, is he holding some kind of regional belt to hold that ranking? No, he's not. So I'm just not getting how the WBO are keeping him up that high. There's guys below him that have done a hell of a lot more than he is, and he hasn't got a Nascimento. It's not the same Nascimento that I'm thinking of though. It's Carlos Elton Nascimento. It's not the that other guy, is it? Mm, no, and I can't see anybody on his record that would give him that ranking. That makes no sense whatsoever. I mean, not that governing bodies actually make a lot of sense most of the time anyway, but that's ridiculous. Um, oh, sorry, dude. I was looking at the rankings. Shit, it must have only been a few days ago, and it wasn't there. But I wasn't looking at the WBO site. I was looking at the boxing scene rankings, so they might have only just updated them. But that's interesting. I thought the WBO had some kind of grudge against Parker, dropping him out of the rankings when he lost the unification fight and he lost to Dillian White, who at the time I believe was like number 1 or number 2 with the WBO anyway, wasn't he? So, but still, does that? Well, to me, that doesn't constitute dropping somebody right out of the rankings by losing to the unified champion and the number 2. Is, I don't know. That's what it is. But madness, isn't it? Madness. Yeah, indeed it will be. Um, well, I think some of it might depend on who wins the fight, because I think it's possible if Joshua gets his belts back, all of a sudden Kubrat Pulev's not going to be so keen to push for the fight. He's been pushing hard, but that's because he wants to fight Andy Ruiz. He thinks it's an easier fight. So, I don't know, but the WBO have a time limit. What is it, May next year? They want their mandatory fought by, so it leaves a little bit of leeway for whoever wins to be able to face that IBF mandatory and then face the WBO straight after. I mean, ideally that's what I'd like to see happen. I don't want to see the belts split up, but I think if a belt does get stripped, I think it's probably most likely going to be the IBF. But that's only because they don't bend their rules. What they say is what they mean. Um, and every other governing body is a little bit flexible. So, um, okay, fair enough. Yep, I can get down with that. I did see a fight that's scheduled for the same day. Well, it's not actually officially scheduled yet, but they were talking about it being made for the same day in the same venue. So I can't remember who it was. That's it. Mm. Yeah. Um, which fight do you think would be the biggest draw? I think you know. Yeah, it's probably part of the contract. It would have to be. Um, so interesting indeed. But indeed. And what do you make of oh shit, I lost what I was gonna say. Oh, the B-side comments that David Higgins has said. He's been informed on the email of the contract. They got the offer, They don't know if they'll be the main event, but they've been told that Joseph Parker is the B side. What's that about? Yeah, we haven't really got any details of what the offer is or percentages or anything like that, but I wouldn't imagine it'd be too far off 50-50, to be honest. Um, I think, yep, quite. Um, I'm not exactly sure on that one. The poster that I saw just said "Welcome to the team," and that was a Matchroom poster. It didn't say Matchroom USA on it, but I was initially under the impression that it was Matchroom USA. So um, I would have thought Frank Smith would have been his promoter if he was under Matchroom USA, if you know what I mean, because he's the CEO of that company, isn't he? Rather than Eddie Hearn. So I don't know, man. I'll have to do some research to find out more about that one, I think. Okay. Um. Yeah. We also have Tommy Temper in the house. How are you? Good morning over there. Are you there, Tommy? No, he's muted. Must be busy.
Sorry, Jono.
Oh, there he is.
I'm here.
There he is. How you doing, mate?
Not too bad. We can't hear your guest in the chat. I can just about hear him in the hangout. I'm just wondering, can anybody actually hear me?
Could somebody let us know in the chat? Can you hear Tommy okay? I know Adam does sound a bit quiet. I was having trouble initially, but yeah, someone let us know. Got a few seconds lag before they will hear that message, so um, we'll continue
Can you
chatting.
hear me, guys? Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Sweet. So what do you reckon of the news? Are you down with the fight not being on the Joshua card, or what do you reckon, Tommy?
Are you talking about the Parker?
Chisora fight, yeah.
Yeah. Um. Can they afford to have all those fights on one card?
Well, that was one of the things I wondered if they went on to the Joshua card. There's a set amount of money for that, but I would have thought they'd do better if they were a main event at the O2. But it sounds like they might not even be that if they have to be co-main event with Prograde and Taylor. So interesting to say the least. But
Well, I kind of hope that the Parker Chisora fight's in UK because I would actually go and watch that.
yeah, you would.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Would you be interested in the Prograde Taylor fight as well?
Is it on the same card?
It's sounding like it's gonna be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stick it all in.
Yeah. Jam it in there. Watch it all. Why not? All good. And a couple of other points. Do you think David Hay is the problem with the negotiations for this fight, considering Hearn and Higgins had no trouble organising Joshua versus Parker or White versus Parker?
In a word, yes. Because before Dereck Chisora was with David Hay, he was struggling to get fights. And he was struggling to get paid for the fight. Reasonable money. Now that he's the other side of the coin, I'm not saying it's Dereck Chisora, but it's got David Hay written all over it. So yeah, I reckon it's mainly David Hay.
Mm. I did see a comment from someone earlier, like the mind games from Chisora's team have been switched around on them, possibly by, because it's only like 9 weeks out now, and now they send an offer. So luckily, Parker was ready for it this time. He's already in camp, not mucking around. So let's get that contract signed. Let's get this fight happening, and we'll see who's the better man on the day. I don't think there's going to be any Australian chickens around, like Dereck Chisora said, but we'll see. Um, are you back and made some adjustments there, Adam? Still really quiet, bud. It's interesting. Have you tried jumping out and jumping back in, maybe? Yeah, see what happens. Alright, so we've got a couple of fights happening this weekend. We've got that Vasyl Lomachenko fight against what's his name? Someone Campbell?
Campbell.
Can't remember his first name.
Luke, I think.
Luke Campbell, that's it. And we've also got on that same card Hughie Fury versus Alexander Povetkin. It's a very interesting fight, I think. I think it's probably the most competitive fight on the card, to be honest, that I've noticed. But what do you reckon, Tommy?
Oh, I don't see Hughie knocking out Povetkin, right?
Fair enough.
So if he's going to win, he's going to have to win on points. But I think there's a higher probability that Fury is going to get stopped. So that would be my betting money that way.
Yep. I think a good bet, a possible bet for that fight would be Povetkin on points. That'll be the one that's going to pay the most, because it's not as likely as a knockout. But I think, in all seriousness, Povetkin's going to have trouble tracking Hughie down, and I think it's going to be a replay or similar to the Parker versus Hughie Fury fight. But
Well, Povetkin would be wise to go to the body as early as he can, slow him down.
oh, definitely. You want to give it another go there, Adam? See how you sound now? Yeah, still miles away, mate. Sounds like you're talking to the phone from across the room. It's weird. I might be able to change some settings now. You're coming up here. Let's have a quick look. Can I do anything to you? No, I can't. Bugger. Okay, man. Give that a go. All good. Alright. So, and have you got many comments there about the Lomachenko Campbell fight, Tommy?
I think you said in your last stream it's taking place at what, 135? Is that correct?
Yes.
I had 140 in my head for some reason. I don't know why, but anyway, yeah, I reckon Loma probably stop him late, or he's going to get UD.
Yep. Have you seen a photo of them facing off?
I think, was it Raf's show last night? Did he show it?
Man,
where Loma's quite a bit shorter than Campbell.
Oh, he's miles shorter. Makes him look like a dwarf. But it will be interesting to see how Loma's going to get through the jab and close the gap, because it's a huge reach advantage. Excuse me, huge reach advantage he's got, and Luke Campbell was an outside fighter too. So, you know, I was talking to Red Glove Militant this morning, and we were talking about the guy who has beaten Vasyl Lomachenko, Orlando Salida. He was trying to give some advice about making the fight as dirty as possible. A lot of infighting. Do whatever you can to get away and see what you can get away with. But Luke Campbell's not that kind of fighter, so I don't see him employing tactics that he's not adept at against the elite champion like Lomachenko. So I don't know. I'm hoping Luke Campbell can at least give Lomachenko a few rounds, try and push him a little bit. If he pulls off a win, man, the boy's going to be a legend straight away. But in all fairness, I don't think it's very likely. I think Lomachenko's going to stop him like a ref stoppage or a no mas around round 7 to 8 maybe. And Loma will move on to the next fight. This is boxing. We may be surprised. You never know, man. Shit can happen. Yes, so what else have we got? We've got Michael Hunter and Sergey Kuzmin down the track as well. Adam was talking about that earlier. I'll just look up the date for that fight because I can't remember it off the top of my head. Michael Hunter, Boxrec. Their fight is scheduled for the 13th of September, so it's like 3 weeks away. And that fight, where's that going to be? That's going to be in New York. So that could be a DAZN headliner, is it? Oh, it's the David Haney card. Okay. Devin Haney, sorry, my bad. Devin Haney, 22-0. He will be fighting. How the hell do you say that? I'll try and butcher it. Zawa and Dooley. Excuse me if I've so butchered that. I don't know who the dude is. He is 11-0. He's an up and coming prospect, so that's good. We've got Daniel Roman on that card as well. And it looks like Kuzmin versus Hunter is a fair way down the card. That's interesting because it's a very good fight. So we'll see what happens. That's like 3 weeks away, so looking forward to that one as well. Let's see. You back there, Adam?
You can hear me now?
Oh, that's much better, mate. Loud and clear, crispy as. Very good. So yeah, I was just mentioning the Hunter versus Kuzmin fight. It's on the 13th of September. So that's a bloody good fight on the Devin Haney card. What do you think of that one, mate? Who are you gonna pick?
I'm going to go with Kuzmin via points. Kuzmin via points.
Ooh, interesting pick. Have you got an opinion on that one, Tommy? He's busy.
Sorry, John. Just repeat the question.
Sergey Kuzmin versus Michael Hunter on the 13th of September. Have you got a pick for that fight?
I'm gonna have to pass on that one, mate.
Fair enough. I think it's a very good matchup. Kuzmin's got some skills. Michael Hunter's got skills. I think Hunter's going to be the slightly bigger fighter in that one, isn't he? Or slightly taller at least. So I think he's only 6'2", is that right? Where is he? Sergey Kuzmin. Looking him up, he is reach of 75.5 inches. Oh, he's actually taller than Hunter. He's 6'4". I thought he was a slightly shorter heavy. But maybe it's just because I saw him standing next to David Price. He looks like a midget. Yeah, I think Michael Hunter's 6'3". Let's check his reach out. Is it registered? Oh, they say he's 6'2" and a 2 with a 79.5" reach. So Hunter's shorter, but he's going to have a substantial reach advantage. Interesting. I think I'm going to go with Hunter on this one, but I think it's going to be a points decision. But I wouldn't at all be surprised if it went the other way. I don't think Kuzman is going to be able to knock Hunter out. Do you think he could stop him, Adam?
It's all going to depend on that right hand's had some time now to heal. So yeah, I believe it was his right hand. I'm pretty certain of that. So he does have any heavyweight has a punch, but yeah, I can just see him labouring to a points win actually over Hunter. He sort of like can tire him out.
Yeah, Hunter does look tired and late in tough fights a lot, doesn't he? But to me, he even looks really uncoordinated at times. But I don't think he actually is. I think it's just the way he moves and the style is a little bit different, maybe. But still a very good fight. I'm looking forward to that one. Alright, so any other fights that are coming up? So, you didn't get to talk much about the Povetkin versus Huey fight, did you there, Adam? Much of an opinion on that one?
I'm going with Povetkin on points. However, Huey is got 18-inch reach. If he can use his reach and jab and move whilst being positive, with throwing a lot more right hands from his shoulder, not from his ankle, he might actually have some success against Povetkin if he can start to tire him.
Yeah.
Povetkin now is getting on. What is he, 40 almost?
Yeah, 40 in September, I think. Sometime, so he's probably 40 now.
So he'd be like a day or two away from his 40th birthday. Yeah, I can just see either being Huey on points, again in a close one, or Povetkin hurting Huey and Huey going into his shell, and Povetkin trying to relatively easy-ish sort of 8-4, 9-3 sort of a points win.
So it's similar sort of thing to Huey Parker.
It's just we need to be able to see if he can actually throw that right hand with any conviction against someone who is top 10.
Yeah.
Like doing it against 34 for the British title with Sexton.
Sam Sexton, yeah. He looked good in that fight, didn't he?
Yeah, doing it against him or that Chris Norad, who's a bit of a known name. It means nothing really. He's an odd one. He's very young and has fought some good names, but he's put in some very odd performances.
Yeah, well, even that fight against Pulev, once that cut opened up and Peter told him go out there and try and finish it, and he did, and it still didn't look like the heavier punches that he was throwing were doing hardly anything. To me, when he tries to sit down on punches, his hand flies back a foot before it goes forward. It's all fine and dandy being able to hide it with a jab, but it's not even a straight punch. When you throw it that far back, it's got to come around the corner a bit to get past your shoulder. If you're not throwing it from your shoulder and stepping into it, then it's it's not a real power punch. It's just an arm punch. So,
Yeah. I can actually sort of see Viking sort of slipping in underneath that jab and really going to Huey's body, which I don't think we've seen much of with Huey, like someone doing that, in regards to concerted efforts to do that. So, yeah, it's a bit of a chucking a duck in the deep end and seeing if it swims, really.
it is. Got to give credit to the young fella though. Recently he's been fighting better opposition than Tyson, so um, it's good to see him in tough fights, and it's really given us a good idea of where he's actually at. But he needs to grow his game. I think he's got the feet of a superstar, but he hasn't got the hands to go with it. So,
The big interesting point here is if you look at it from Vickers' point of view, what does a win over Huey Fury actually do?
not a
Do you know
lot,
what I mean?
yeah.
Like Parker and Pulev, who are regarded as top 10, have already beaten him. He's got in there with a ghost of Samuel Peter, fought guys at sort of English and British level for 18 to 20 fights. Like, yeah.
I wonder if it's just a matter of Povetkin is getting paid pretty well and he wants to make a bit of money before he retires. Because, like you say, I don't think this fight against Huey Fury has any meaning whatsoever for with regard to rankings or anything. Because Huey's not in the rankings of any governing body, is he? He's nowhere. So,
I think he's in the WBO and in the IBF.
oh really?
Yeah, but I think he's like 12 or something from memory.
Okay. Let's have a quick squiz again. I hadn't noticed his name, but I hadn't been looking for it either. So, what have we got here?
He's 13 in the IBF.
Okay. 13 in the IBF. I can't see him in the WBO. Nah. Michael Hunter 12. Carlos Taken 13. Tom Schwartz 14. Oscar Rivas 15.
Yeah, no, not the WBO, but yeah. So he holds an IBF ranking.
Okay. Povetkin's got a few rankings across the board, isn't he? 7 with the WBC. Where else is he?
I think that might be it in the WBA.
10th in the WBA.
And he's not ranked in either BO or IBF.
Okay. Okay, yeah, well, I thought he might have been ranked a little bit higher than that. I mean, he's only had the one loss in the last few years, hasn't he?
Yeah.
But I guess some of the drug issues he's had has contributed to him dropping out of some rankings and whatnot. Yeah, but he's still a pretty good fighter, and I think he's still capable of beating a lot of guys who are ranked above him at this stage, even at the age of 40. So,
Yeah, in my opinion, he's world class for the first 4 rounds, and then he sort of starts to fade. But that's just with age and his style of throwing big, powerful hooks.
yeah,
It's not going to blend well with a guy aging, which is, I'm guessing, the whole narrative of what Victor and Huey are thinking for this fight.
yeah, yeah,
But yeah, like, to be fair, good on him for Huey taking the challenge. It's a lot better than him just fighting a no-name for a run out.
for sure, for sure. Well, is there any other fights on the horizon that you're looking for that are pretty close coming?
Obviously, this weekend, looking forward to the whole card, really. Yeah, I wish I'd been going to the fight, to be fair, but yeah, just to be able to see Loma back in action again, always a treat. Jeff Horn's back out this weekend. few out and about, but all eyes really will be on that O2 card.
I did forget about Jeff Horn. I was reading about his fight today. Can you refresh my memory? Who's he fighting? Do you know his name?
That's Zafara, Michael, the one who Cal Brook just fought, the Aussie fella.
Ah, that guy. Yeah.
Michael Zafara, the tattooed fella.
That's the one. And is that fight? That fight's in Aussie, obviously.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's for a WBA strap of some sort, not a world title, but like a minor title.
Okay. At 160, is it, or 168?
160.
Okay, yeah. Cause was it 168 that Horn fought Mundine at?
I think it was it 164 or something?
Catch weight. That's right. Yeah. Okay.
There was a lot of stipulations for Mundine about being too heavy.
Yeah.
It was like $100,000 every pound or something, wasn't it?
Something ridiculous like that. Yeah. All right. So I've got this this Lomachenko versus Campbell card up on screen at the moment. Some other fights on there. We've got Charlie Edwards, who's 15-1. He'll be fighting Julio Cesar Martinez Aguilar. Is that correct? He's 14-1. So a couple of guys getting it on who've only got one loss. We talked about the Huey Fury. Away you go.
Yeah, I can actually see Charlie Edwards losing that. And a bit of a shock sort of defeat.
Okay. I can't say I know this other guy, so I can't comment too much on it, but you know a little bit about him. You want to let us know?
Not really, to be fair. I've only seen 2 fights of him. Both were knockouts. He sparked, his name. There's a Victor Ortiz, who's sort of like a journeyman level, sort of on the up sort of a guy. And then he knocked out Andrew Selby, one of the Selby brothers, who was 11-0 for the mandatory slot. Yeah, I think it was like a pretty vicious body blow by the look of it.
Okay.
So he sort of looks like he packs a punch.
Cool. Sounds exciting.
Yeah, the small fellas going at it.
Yeah. Very cool. Also on the card, we've got undefeated Joshua Buatsi. He's got a bit of a run out against Ryan Ford, who is 16-4. Can't say I know too much about Ryan Ford. I think I have seen him fight once before, but Joshua Buatsi is a very promising prospect, and at 11-0, I don't think they'd be putting him in there with too much risk while they're still trying to build him. Any thoughts on that one, Adam?
Ford's sort of a guy who's been linked with quite a few guys in the Commonwealth. Anthony Yard, for one of the guys, probably about 2 or 3 fights ago, I think, from memory. They were looking at getting him in. He's also been touted in talks with, what's the guy from Australia? I forget his name now.
Not Tim Tszyu, no.
Blake Capero.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And so there's sort of a few links with those sorts of guys. But yeah, he's just sort of a name. He's getting on there in age. I think he's late 30s.
Okay. Alright, so moving on to the next one, we have Joe Cordina, 9-0, and he'll be fighting Gavin Gwynn, who's 11-0. So this fight, somebody's O has got to go. Should be exciting. 2 young, hungry guys looking for a win against somebody undefeated. I don't know who I'm going to pick in that one, actually. I probably have to go with Joe Cordina, simply because I know more about him and I've seen him fight more often, but that's not an accurate way of picking a fight. What about yourself? Who are you picking in that one?
Yeah, I got Cordina to stop win. I think he'll just try and walk through him, really. Wins 11-0 with 1 KO.
Didn't look at that stat.
So, yeah. It's a good, I think he's Welsh as well, so it's definitely is with that surname, so it's a good Welsh affair.
Yep. Awesome. Next one down the list. I don't know if I'll pronounce this one right, but James Tamison. He's 24-3, and he'll be taking on Afi Shafig. Dodgy. Who is 21-2. So I think these are getting down to some fighters that I don't really know pretty much anything about. You know much about anybody else further down the list on there? I don't think.
Not much other than Tennyson for Tevin Farmer. Got carried by him. Savannah Marshall obviously is the one who beat Clarissa Shields in the amateurs.
Yes.
Dalton Smith is just a guy who's come out of the GB setup who they're trying to fast track by the sounds of what every time you hear from Eddie. He seems like he wants to get him moving.
Okay.
And yeah, I've got no idea who Connor is. Connor Coghill.
Right, yeah. All good. Yeah, that guy you were talking about, was it Dalton Smith? Yeah, 2-0 with an extensive amateur career. So maybe one to look at for the future, but one to look at on this card to get an idea of what he's all about. So it's a pretty decent card, really. Considering the lack of cards that we've had in the UK this year, get eyes on it, watch it, enjoy it, love it. It's boxing. All right. Yeah. So, oh wow. Since we're here and we've got you, what do you think of the whole situation and the story that's gone down with the Joshua versus Ruiz rematch?
I, for one, didn't think it would happen in Saudi unless Ruiz got paid a lot more than he was contracted to get, which, by the sounds, has happened. I still would have personally rather been here in the UK, so I would go to it. Yeah, if it's going to happen there, it's in a 12,000 seater venue, so I can imagine what the ticket prices will be. Yeah, it sort of seems a bit of an odd one. They're creating a stadium. Don't really know too much about what the temperature and all that will be at that time of the year. I know that's sort of like the winter period, but that could still be mid-high 20s. So yeah, so we're seeing what happened when Joe went and fought in Samoa. The heat and humidity can take a toll. I know it's a lot drier out there, but yeah. What's that AJ Untold Truth of the documentary they did with that Anna Woolhouse for Sky Sports?
Yep.
Where he called Lennox a clown and the lucky punch comment come from and all that sort of carry on.
Yeah.
And yeah, he just seems a bit off. I don't know whether he's had enough of trying to be the nice guy fitting into everything or what sort of a go, but yeah, he didn't really answer many of the questions. He linked a lot of stuff back to what he's trying to do in Nigeria and the likes. And yeah, he pretty much said that Andy had no skill. It was a lucky punch that landed, and all that sort of carry on. So yeah, I'm not too sure. Like He sort of said that he went into the ring with nothing to really win. When we've heard many a time from many great champions that once you get in the ring, you're not a champion until you get those belts back. So it's just a bit of an interesting one. It almost seemed like it was a bit of a holiday out there for them mentally.
Yeah. The comments from Lennox Lewis. Do you think there's any kind of spite or jealousy in that in those comments, or do you think it's something to do with PBC, or is it just Lennox?
I think it's just Lennox. His sort of confidence of knowing he's already done it. He can sort of cast that upon anyone really, and they can't really say much about it. He obviously tried to sign Joshua when he left the Olympics, and that didn't end well. So whether he's holding a grudge for that, you wouldn't really know. I don't think anything with his PVC stuff comes into it. I think he's just entitled to hold his own opinion, and he'll hold that opinion. And you yourself are not one to tell Mr. Lennox Lewis that his opinion is wrong. So it's just being on social media, being able to have that platform. He could have said that to 10,000 people, and if there was no social media, no one would know about it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, well, it's a lot different to when Lennox was boxing nowadays, isn't it? It was newspapers and magazines, you'd read stuff like that on, but it's so accessible nowadays, and so many people are making big deals out of it and making their own assumptions that maybe Lennox is jealous, or maybe he's a PBC sellout, and I'm not really buying any of that. I think it's just Lennox. He's always had a strong point of view, and he's entitled to it. So, it's like,
well, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's a fart in the wind. Sorry, mate. What was that?
No, I was just saying he's fought already for that point of view. So that point of view is justified, no matter whether we think it's right or wrong. It's just, to me, is a nothing sort of a thing, really. Just more clouding away from this whole B sample.
Yes. Now that is an issue. I've spoken to a few people about it, and Dillian had the option apparently of opening the B sample or having a hearing with UCAD prior to the Rivas fight. He chose the hearing. They cleared him to fight, but that's not the end of it. Apparently, with UCAD, apparently there's still something going on. It wasn't an actual choice for a final ruling by the sounds of it. But what matters most, I think, is the WBC are only interested in that B sample. They're not interested in what happened at the hearing or anything. They want to know what's in that B sample, and if that B sample is dirty as well as the A sample, and they have that evidence, then there ain't no way Dillian Whyte is getting his status back as the interim champion and the mandatory with them. So I don't know. It's very quiet from Dillian Whyte at the moment. I'm waiting to see what's going to happen.
You go on then.
No, I'm done. Where you go?
I think there's a lot of lawyer sort of things here at play. The whole how it broke was always very odd. So someone in UCAD had released that to Tom Hostler. It become a big ball rolling down a hill very quickly. I'm interested to see what is in that sample, because obviously they keep everything confidential. But at the end of the day, if they've cleared him to fight now, and they also now state that there won't be any penalty for that, then that's all really UCAD will do. Like you say, if the WBC want that B sample opened and it proves to be dirty, then he will be really, well, I don't think he'll be fighting for the WBC title within the next 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
But it it's just clouded in so much misinformation out there already about it. That there needs to be some pretty clear-cut statements come from this investigation once it's complete, because otherwise everyone will just think that White's dirty and he got away with it.
Indeed. In your opinion, do you think having a dirty A sample, Dillian should have been allowed to fight Rivas, regardless of what was released at the hearing?
No, he should not. In my opinion, the B sample should have been opened. But also, in my opinion, like drugs and boxing is a complete joke. It really needs a massive overhaul worldwide. They need to come in with regulations for if you pop for a Panadol, you pop for sort of any sort of steroid or anything. There needs to be some sort of bans that are sort of uniform in place. Information needs to be available for every party, not just the party involved. There's a whole lot of things that need to be sorted out. Also like this whole thing of do UCAD have the money to take a legal battle? If they don't, then they can just drop it. It's like, well, if he's failed a test, then he's failed a test. I think everything just has to fall under one envelope. He's going off that there's a lot of non-testing happening in the US. Well, there's a hell of a lot that's not happening in the UK as well. Having fighters coming out like Anthony Fowler had 11 odd fights, hadn't been tested.
Yeah, I saw that video. That blew me away.
Yeah. Dave Allen said he's had 20 odd fights and he's been tested twice. Once was for Lucas Brown in his last, or 2 fights ago, and the other one was Dillian White.
Jesus.
So it's not like every UK guy's getting tested. So to sort of throw shit as it is over the fence to America doesn't really fly for me when there's greater issues or similar issues in the UK. I would actually, out of the registered boxers in fights over the last 6 months, I would actually love to know a figure of how many have been tested and how many were tested to a certain degree. Were they tested on the night? Were they tested during camp? Because I think you'd be quite surprised at how low those numbers actually are.
Yeah, well, I've spoken fairly extensively with Double A Boxing in Blunts, who's how would I put it? He's an avid UCAD watcher, and he knows a lot about what goes on in there. And apparently, most boxers in the UK, unless they are like top 5 sort of thing, they don't really get tested. It's only the guys with the big profiles that get tested stringently.
Yes.
Which, how's that fair? You know, you can cheat your way to the top before you get caught. What's with that? That sucks. But I'm down with you. Like, the international boxing should all be under one testing body, or somebody who oversees all the punishments, because every different country having their own testing schedule or supposedly random testing protocols just ain't working, and it causes us confusion. Like between UCAD and the WBC, they had to hear it through the media that there was a failed test prior to a fight that they were sanctioning. So that's that's dodgy, man. That's dodgy. Something's got to be done, but at the same time, how can it be done? Because there's so many authorities and they all want their finger in the pie. Somebody's finger's going to have to get chopped off for somebody's finger to grow. You know what I mean? So
I fully understand it. What I think you do need is full buy-in from every commission worldwide, which in some countries like Australia, New Zealand, Great Britain, it's all under one commission. America's obviously got all their state commissions.
Yeah.
But they all need to come together. There needs to be a clear testing process broken out. Even if it means that for guys that are, say, 5 and 0 are getting tested once in camp and once on the night, but the once in camp can be any time.
Yeah.
And then, say, a wilder might get tested 4 times in camp, if you know what I mean? Because if money is a factor.
Yeah.
But at least, like a lot of guys who get tested say, if you give guys who are being tested a drug test which could turn up at any time, there's always that fear factor of if you are cheating, you could be caught. It won't stop some from cheating, but if you're actually taking it seriously and not just testing guys of, say, the top 5 in each division, then you will actually get rid of quite a few boxes, I'd actually assume.
Agreed. Sounds like you need to start a governing drug testing company globally, mate. Could be a new business for you.
Tell you what, I'll take millions, no worries.
Yeah. Why the hell not? Can't do a worse job than some of the organisations that are doing it present. So.
No. Well, there's certain things, certain people hold their own sort of rhetoric. Like Hearn always bounced off that some American states don't have oxygen at ringside, where all British ones do. But then you can look at some testing doesn't even happen in British fights, where in some in America it does, if you know what I mean. Like it's a never-ending circle. Where if you clean it all up, like if you look back, Lance Armstrong used to cheat on a drug which at the time they had no idea it was even like made, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's only until testing had come out later that it proved that he was actually on a special drug. So we're now, I think, at a stage where we can, with decent testing, can pick up almost all. But yeah, it's just sort of a thing now that people are wise enough to know. It's just are they willing to open up the pocket to pay for it?
Yeah, indeed. Well, you know,
even if you had the promoters just come in and just add a surplus to it.
Yeah. Well, there should be enough money to cover it. I mean, there's a lot of money in boxing. More so at the top end of the sport, obviously. But you know, most guys get paid fairly well for getting punched in the face. So the little extra that if every fighter took 1% off their purse, that would cover everything, you'd think, easily. But I don't know, man. I've just stumbled across an article here that says Hearn reveals that Joshua versus Huey Fury was very close at one point. So I haven't actually read through the article, but that's interesting. Do you think that's realistic, that it actually was close, or is that just something that Hearn's bringing up magically prior to Fury having a fight?
No, I think it really was one. I do remember a while ago being quite close, and then Hearn came out in a few interviews recently and said that he thought they were just joking in regards to wanting a bit of media for Huey rather than him actually wanting to fight. But yeah, if he actually did want that, I think it goes back to just before he fought for the world title. It might have been the first defence of the world title. I remember Peter Fury saying, if you pay peanuts to get monkeys or something to Eddie Hearn. Yeah, so.
Okay, I just got a quote here. It says, it's a quote from Eddie Hearn. Actually, where is it? Actually, there was a time around the Anthony Joshua versus Dillian White fight that Huey Fury was mandatory for the British title. Hearn explained to Sky Sports. Okay, so when he was mandatory to the British title.
Yeah. So that would have been, that would have been probably in between White and when he fought Charles Martin.
Okay. Interesting. I never believed Peter Fury and promoter Mick Hennessy wanted the wanted the Joshua fight, but now I know. Where are we? Now I know that they did want it. Okay. Interesting. Very interesting. I don't know how that would have gone at that stage.
Yeah, it would have been a horrible style for Joshua to try and continue to build the hype on. Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, he's one of the harder guys to hit in the division, isn't he? So, could have made Joshua look quite bad if he couldn't land on him. So.
Yeah. Well, as soon as he landed that Charles Martin fight and won that fast, he exploded really in the British public's eyes. And yeah, ever since then, he's just risen to the point where he become fighting in stadiums was the norm.
Yeah.
Which you had guys like Lennox and Bruno and all that fought once or twice, not every single fight back to back.
Yeah. Just thinking about it, Anthony Joshua's entire resume, the best mover on there would be Joseph Parker by a stretch.
Yeah, I agree.
So, you know, that kind of fighter could make anybody look bad, full stop, anyway, but somebody who doesn't have the quickest feet like Joshua could make him look absolutely terrible. So I'm actually wondering whether Eddie Hearn has come out with this, but really he was thinking at the time, I don't really want Joshua to fight Huey because it's not going to do his profile any good. Even if he wins on points, it's still going to look bad. But yeah, interesting.
Yeah. I see on Boxing Scene there is an article about Caldwell talks about the LA work trip with Gill and some pricey Hope. So obviously Chisora's tagged along.
Yes. Oh, yeah, there it is. I see. He's gone to try and get some American sparring. Somebody who can move. Somebody who's got some decent hands. Maybe. Nah, surely not. He's not gonna jump in camp with Andy Ruiz, is he? Would he? Probably not. No. I mean, he's got the hand speed, but he hasn't got the foot speed to compare with Parker, really, I suppose. But he's certainly elite. He's a 3-belt holder. Yeah.
One thing worth watching if you're interested or you've got time. There's a video on YouTube of Eric Molina discussing his whole UCAD situation.
Okay.
With how he was banned after the Joshua fight.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think I might have seen it. Is that the one where he talks about he knew he'd done wrong and he accepts the punishment, but he was upset about something else?
Pretty much just all the dealings with him, how he'd been dealt with. Sort of information being requested, not granted, and all the legal sort of carry on.
Okay. All cool. Any idea what the title of that was?
I'm not too sure, but if you type in Dereck Molina UCAD on YouTube, I'm sure you'll find it.
Okay. Cool as. Well, I definitely will check that out at some stage soon. Probably once I finish the stream, I will go and have a look. But We have been on for just over an hour and 20 minutes, so it's getting close to my old man bedtime. Thinking about wrapping it up. Any final subjects to bring up before we go, bud?
Not really, to be fair.
Fair enough then. Alright, so a big shout out to everybody in the chat. Mala2243, always a regular hanging around. Much appreciated. Wilder's Equalizer, good to have you in. I've seen you around a bit more lately. Azzy's in there as well. Who else have we got? Those are all the current ones talking at the moment. Appreciate you all fellas turning up. Appreciate you turning up as well, Adam. It's always a pleasure. And a big thank you to Tommy Tampa for dropping in earlier on. Always a supporter of the channel as well, so much appreciated. And hopefully we will have some confirmation news about Parker versus Chisora in the very near future. We can get that fight on, enjoy it, and Adam Fahey will be there. Sure will. Alright, so that's us for tonight. We're out. Thanks for joining. Catch you next time. Big Boys Boxing, we out. See you.